So tonight on the PowerScripting podcast, we are very pleased to have with us Jason Helmick. Jason, welcome back.
Hey, it's great to see you. I'm so glad you guys started running this show again. It's great to have you guys back on the air, and it's great to be on the show.
Yeah, and in your new role. So in case our listeners are not aware, Jason has a new and important, well, he's always had an important role in the PowerShell community, but potentially an even more important role in the PowerShell community.
Now I work for Microsoft, and I'm a PM on the PowerShell team. Everybody knows Joey. I work with Joey, and with Steve Lee and the rest of the team. It's been quite an exciting and very unusual change in my. Well, it certainly wasn't part of my planned career trajectory. I think a hot dog stand was the next phase in my. This opportunity certainly has become just everything that I could ever imagine. So yeah, I'm on the PowerShell team and loving every minute of it.
So how long have you been working for Microsoft?
So it's really kind of interesting. I've been there a total of 3.5 months now, and that sounds like a long time, but I swear I feel like I just woke up yesterday for my first day.
Okay.
It's really gone by really fast, which there's so much to learn, and there's so much to, quite frankly, one of the first things was, I think Jeffrey introduced me to a campus by saying, now you get to see how the sausage is made. And that's a really interesting concept, is seeing how the sausage actually gets made. It's a lot more complicated than I ever expected it to be. And it's certainly something that every morning when I wake up, I'm just passionate about. Oh, cool. I get to go into the office today and I get to work on PowerShell. I mean, I got to spend most of the parts of my career, especially over the last 12 years, being in a very fortunate position to spend my daytime as well as my nighttime thinking about PowerShell and using PowerShell, teaching PowerShell, using it, working with customers on it. So now it's kind of like, well, now I get to do it officially, and I get to spend all of that time, and it really applies to everything that I've cared about. So I'm very grateful for this position.
That's amazing. So did you have to move out there, I assume?
Yeah, here's the funny part to the whole story is that I was asked to interview for it. So I went up and I interviewed. I flew up to interview for it and went through the whole day interview. And I really wanted to do the interview for the experience of going through, the full day interview at Microsoft. And I was curious of how I did on the interview, right? That's really what I was going for. And I had no thought whatsoever about what it would be like to move for this position. And then I got a phone call, and my current boss, Nir, basically said, we're going to offer you the position. And suddenly it was just all of this reality sank in. Because there was nothing that was stopping me from saying yes, right? That was just a foregone conclusion that I would say yes, but I hadn't thought about any of the other stuff like packing up and moving. So the move to Redmond, which for anybody listening, for those of you that know me, I'm a desert person. I live in the desert, right? I've lived in Phoenix forever, and then I spent a couple of years really having a great time living in Las Vegas, but that's all desert. And the move to Redmond is a completely different environment, and it's actually been a very enjoyable both move, and it's been a very fascinating time getting used to my new environment, which the new environment involves things that I'm not accustomed to, like, weather.
Trees.
Trees. And I'm not kidding how strange trees are. In Phoenix, you can just look out your car window and say, oh, yeah, I see the destination that I'm trying to drive to. It's 30 miles away, but I see the sign. Here, Well, you don't see anything. There's a tree. And so even trying to find a bank, it took me 5 days to find a bank simply because there was one a block away. I just couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, the rain, the trees, and when the sun comes out, it's beautiful here. I mean, it's beautiful here when it rains. It's always seems like it's beautiful. It's just a totally new environment.
Oh, sure. It's probably a little more humid than you're used to.
A little bit more humid and a lot colder. I mean, I'm wearing things that I've never owned before. I had to buy a whole new, wardrobe because in Phoenix, you have a shirt and that's it. Shorts, that's about it. Somebody asked me the other day, what was the most surprising thing in your new role? And I said, well, at Microsoft or not at Microsoft? And they said, well, first, not at Microsoft. And I said, well, the most surprising thing is that my dogs have to have a wardrobe. I've never bought clothes for a dog before, but here, they need clothes. They need shirts for the day, shirts at night. They need coats for outside, and they literally need them because we have these little tiny Shih Tzus, and so
oh gosh, yeah, they have no.
They're not like Huskies or Akitas that are built for all of this. So I had to get a wardrobe for the dogs and a wardrobe for me at the same time. So that was definitely interesting and new. But I think one of the most surprising things, though, in going to Microsoft was I was very nervous very first day. You've got all these smart people, a lot smarter than me, and here I am showing up to Microsoft and going to work on PowerShell. And it really surprised me at not only how nice everybody was, not just the PowerShell team. I mean, every person I met at Microsoft, they were, but also, and here's what really got me, how helpful they were. Not as in, yeah, if you're looking for this building, you go that way. It's in, no, I'll walk with you. Or, no, do you need help figuring out basic benefits and stuff like that, how we do things or where to find this? Here, let me show you. Here, follow me and let me just take you to this. So, I mean, it's been a really enjoyable experience going to work at Microsoft because everybody's been so helpful and it's been a great experience. Now, I do have to tell you a secret. I don't think I've told anybody this, and I'm going to tell you, so don't tell anybody, right?
Okay.
On my very first day working at Microsoft, I want to puff out my chest, right? I'm working at Microsoft. I'm working on the PowerShell team, and this is amazing. I couldn't have dreamed this, right? And on my first day, I get back from NEO, the new employment orientation, and on my desk, my brand new desk is my brand new laptop. And my mission is to get this laptop set up so I can go to work. And I got it set up and I go to work and I broke my laptop. And I don't mean a little break. I mean, totally broke it. I had to literally, with my tail dragging between my legs, walk up to my boss and go, my brand new boss, I just broke this. And he just looked at me, and it was kind of like he almost had this look on his face, like, seriously, your first day.
What'd you do? Knocking on the floor or something? Or
well, yeah, and it's one of those things where I just wanted to kind of, do you get fired for this on your first day, or do they kind of go, we picked the wrong one? But yeah, I totally broke my laptop, and that's something that usually takes a while to get fixed. So yeah, I wasn't feeling so great on my first day, but
I'm sure.
After that, everything else has been working out really well. So,
so other than that, the onboarding process was pretty smooth.
Yeah, the onboarding process, and one of the great things is I'm walking into a team of people that a lot of these folks, I don't know them personally, but I know their reputations. Right, this has been a part of, well, like you, it's been a part of our lives for the last 12, 13 years. And we know these people. So I wasn't walking into an unfamiliar place.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was walking into a place where, I just wanted to, shake everybody's hands and, just tell them how amazing they have been, that kind of thing. And at the same time, hey, let's dive in and get to work. And there's one thing you don't ever have to worry about is you will never be bored. And on the PowerShell team, we're open source, baby. And that means that we're not sitting around going, hey, what can we, think up and we'll shove this in and see what everybody thinks about it, a couple years from now. No, it's, hey, you got an idea? Let's write this up in an RFC. Let's make an issue out of it. Let's see what people think, and let's start getting feedback. And so all day long, it's not just ideas, it's the community. It's what everybody is talking about. It's what they think. And in my short amount of time at Microsoft, I've learned that the community absolutely not only makes a difference, they are a key instrument, a key part of this process every day. And so if there's one bit of encouragement I could say is, if you're going out there and you're looking at the RFCs, or if you're going out there and looking at issues and you're making comments on those issues, we are paying attention. We have long conversations about your long conversations. So it does matter, the thoughts that you have. And I know some people think that, well, maybe my idea is not that good or something. Sure it is. You've got an idea that's worth another 50 IQ points as far as I'm concerned. Please put it out there, because your ideas matter. And, it's been such an exciting experience to be able to work with the community from a different perspective, right? I've been a part of the community, and now it's, okay, let's talk to everybody. And it doesn't feel different to me. It feels just like it always did. So I hope that's a good thing.
It seems like it would be.
Well, we shall see, shan't we?
So you've already been, you kind of hit the ground running, and you've already been producing content kind of on behalf of the PowerShell team, at least on YouTube that I'm aware of. So can you tell people about the show? I think that we may have mentioned it the last time we recorded. I think we kind of pointed people at it. But now that we have you on here, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, and you know what, Jonathan, I'd really love your feedback, your and Hal's feedback, and everybody's feedback. So I started this thing, the show on YouTube, and the idea behind this is I kind of wanted to bring people into the same experience that I'm having when I get to both work with something. Our engineers are brilliant, and they come up with these bright ideas, and I wanted to be able to show those ideas. Since we're open source, we're publishing this, so there's nothing. It's not like I have secrets or something like that. But I want to be able to show this to people, and I want to be able to show what we're currently talking about, what we're currently working with. And the other important part that I want to be able to do is I want to be able to show some of the interactions that we have with other teams. And PowerShell is, and I've heard Jeffrey say this, I've heard other people say this, that PowerShell is the glue that brings all of these other technologies together, including other languages. And it really is, but that means it impacts and it affects a lot of different people. And sometimes we lose sight of that. And so one of the purposes to this was to bring in people from other teams that are working with PowerShell and what they're doing with it. And as we as a team work with them, they work with us. Why not talk about some of the stuff that they're doing and make sure that we're broadening our horizons? Because sometimes we might talk about something that maybe I didn't even know you could do that. So that's really what the idea was in my head. And I just finished, as a matter of fact, I think I just published last week the last episode in this series.
So was that 7?
So I think it was 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You're right. That was 7. I intended to land on 8, but I had a better idea for 8.
Okay.
And I'm starting a new series, and I'm probably going to get the first one out maybe next week. It may have to wait till after Ignite. And this is going to start a series that's going to be about all of the new stuff that we're doing, that we're talking about at Ignite, and that that are coming in to PowerShell 7.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, next week, just to let everybody know, we are going to have the release of Preview 5 for PowerShell 7. And I just want to tell you, I was walking out the door today, and Joey said to me, he says, make sure you tell everybody that Preview 5 is coming out next week, and it's a really stable release. So now's a great time to start trying it and give us any feedback, give us issue feedback, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so now's a really good time for that. And I want to let you in on a couple of other things that we'll kind of get to, but On the show, I'm going to start this new series. It's going to have a little bit of a different style, and we're going to start drilling into some of these new things and showing you what was done, what some of the engineering behind it was. So basically kind of an insider's look is what I'm really trying to dial the show into as we do some episodes on that. So, and we'll see how it goes. I really want people's feedback and that kind of things. And if there's particular things that they want to see, I'm trying to keep them short. But as you can tell, once I start talking, it's hard for me to shut up. So,
well, it's not just you. When you have Michael on there or Joey or somebody, you want to talk to them. That makes total sense.
Exactly. And the thing is, I get so excited to be able to sit down and talk with my friends. And the thing is, all of these people have these really great things that they're working on. So I'm so excited to see what they have and what they want to show. And then we get into things that, I've chewed some of the same dirt on. Like we just did several episodes with Michael Green and talking about guest configuration. And we had Joey on with Michael to talk about the new Invoke DSE resource that's now cross-platform and some of the work that's been done. So these are great topics that I really have a lot of fun being able to chat with these folks. So far, it's been going really well, and I look forward to the next series of them that are going to be coming out.
So if we didn't make that clear, you can find the show on YouTube, and there'll be a link in the show notes. But you can just search for Jason Helmick, the show, and it'll come right up. Just look at his videos, and you'll see the episodes in there. Do you have a separate playlist for the show videos yet?
I think I just made one, and I say I think because I was doing a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time. If I didn't, I will be, so that we can break these kind of series up and keep them all in PowerShell and keep everything kind of nice and clean for these. Yeah,
it looks like you've got the first 3 episodes in a list called The Show. Cool.
Yeah, I'll make something called PowerShell, and we'll get that cleaned up a little bit to make it easier for everybody. I started putting them up, and it was one of those things to see, how well they were going to be received, and the responses have been good so far. And so, and some people have been great at giving some critiques, which I really appreciate, and that's why I'm changing it up on the next series that we're doing here. Love any kind of feedback that anybody wants to provide on that. Oh, but hey, if you watch the show, the first episode of the show, there's something really cool going to happen, and I cannot explain how excited about this that I am. And these conversations started even before I had an opportunity to go to Microsoft. So I'm really excited about this. I really think that PowerShell 7 is a lot bigger release than everybody's kind of giving it credit for. And I've been looking at this for some time, and I was really, really hoping that with this release, the cross-platform PowerShell 7, we're going to have the compatibility that everybody wanted with Windows PowerShell and the modules and the commandlets. Joey's been working so hard on all of that. We've got some great information to be able to show people at Ignite. But yes, you're going to have the compatibility that we've been looking for. And PowerShell 7 is really ready for prime time. And as I was leaving, and Joey was saying, hey, make sure you tell everybody, start checking out the preview right now, and it's great. Steve said, yeah, tell everybody, stop using Windows PowerShell. It's PowerShell that you want to be using now. And I think we're at that point. And we've got so many things that PowerShell 7 does to improve your performance, to improve how you utilize your automation, to make your lives easier, to improve the overall experience that are not going to be in Windows PowerShell 5.1. You really want to look at this as your replacement. And that excitement has just been bubbling up inside of me. And fortunately, I was talking with Jeffrey, and I said, I really think that this, if you can spare the spare time, this is really a great time for us to revitalize that original MVA series that we had done on PowerShell. Yeah, please. And he says, time is definitely a challenge, but this is something that is really, really important. And so he is fully on board with it and has been throughout the entire conversation. And then when I got the opportunity to come to Microsoft, it makes it easier for us to get it shot.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're going to start shooting that here pretty quick. And by the time that we release PowerShell 7, we will have information out about the release of that series. So we're really looking forward to doing it. If you guys have feedback or things that you definitely want to see in it or don't want to see in it for that matter, now's a great time to send me a tweet or send me an email and to have those conversations, because I'm putting it together as we speak so that we can get a brand new series out, all on PowerShell 7, all cross-platform. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great series. We're going to make it better than the first one.
Please make sure Jeffrey does the tie thing again.
Oh, we're going to give away a tie. We're
nice.
Totally doing the tie thing, and we're going to give away one of his ties. As a matter of fact, we haven't selected it yet. We got to pick a great tie for this, but we're going to give away one of his ties on that show. During that series, we'll give it away to somebody. So that's going to be really awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, we're going to have some fun while we do this, because you put the two of us together, we always have fun, because PowerShell is so freaky cool. I mean, it is just amazingly cool. And I go back to the original series. One of the things he said during that series really struck me when he said it, and it still strikes me today. And it's one of the reasons why I'm at Microsoft on the PowerShell team. It's that, PowerShell made my job a lot more fun again. I was so bored with the whole, you need a bunch of mailboxes or something. Yeah, I can go through and click through and do that. It made the job fun, being able to automate it, being able to solve real problems and get them automated so that they wouldn't be problems again. All of that excitement still bubbles up with me, and because it's still true, and we're going to get all of that excitement back into this video series. So, but that's just one of the many exciting things coming, right? We've got that Preview 5 coming out. We're going to have a Preview 6 in November.
Okay.
We'll probably have, just so that everybody knows, we've been talking about this, but I want to make sure that it gets broadcast out there. We're looking like, and none of this is carved in stone, so be a little flexible with us, but it's looking like we're going to do a release candidate around that December timeframe, and it's looking like that we're still on target for getting PowerShell 7 out as a general release right in that January timeframe. So we're still working with those. Now, remember, that's, that things can change, but we're still on target for that. So we're very excited about what's coming up. And this is a huge release. And if you're going to be at Ignite, you got to see the Unplugged and you got to see Joey's session, because we're going to show you why this is such a big release.
Oh, that's so awesome. So do you know where these videos are going to be yet? Is it going to be on Microsoft Learning? Because I don't know if it's Channel 9 still a thing. They've gone through some changes.
So they've gone through some changes, but first of all, let me just tell everybody, Channel 9 is a huge thing, is going to be a huge thing. I've been talking to Rick Klaus over there, and so all of you guys who know Rick Klaus and the amazing stuff that he does, he's helping me with this to get this all put together. So we're going to do this this video series with Jeffrey. We're going to do at Channel 9. We're going to get creative. We're going to do a lot of neat stuff with this. The whole focus of this, though, is once again to teach PowerShell right from the ground up. And so we're going to be focused on that, doing that. And yeah, we're going to do this through Channel 9, because Rick is a huge help. And so yeah, Channel 9 is alive and strong. So
that's wonderful news. To this day, I send people to the PowerShell 3 Jumpstart videos.
Well, and of course, I'm so grateful that those videos have worked out so well. And Jeffrey and I both have gotten huge feedback from so many people over the years on those. And we're so glad that those were helpful. And it's because of that feedback. Again, the community wins again, is that the reason that he can carve out the time to do this, because he can justify doing this, because it is important, because people keep telling him that it's important. So feedback, everybody's feedback really matters, and on these things. And so we really appreciate it. And I'm just giddy, right? I'm like a little kid in the store.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and we are making some big changes. I don't know if you've had a chance, Jonathan, to see, and I'd love to be able to show this to you right now, but my daily build today just broke on me on my Mac.
Oh gosh.
But I don't know if you've started to see what we're starting to do. So grab Preview 5, because I mean, we've added some amazing things in here, like the parallelism into for each.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to that so much.
How many of us worked with workflows? And the reason that we worked with workflows and went through all of that was so that we could have for each with parallel, so we could do stuff locally and get that parallelism, right?
Yeah, I did until I learned about that invoke parallel function, and then the stuff that Bo did with the workspaces that was so much more efficient than using workflow.
Oh, absolutely. And we never had it in PowerShell. We've always had parallelism. We've had it since my favorite release up until this new one has always been, and we've had these conversations before, right? What's your favorite PowerShell release? Mine's always been 2, because of remoting changed my life, right? And being able, and I didn't have to, sit there and try to calculate out, well, I've added 100 machines. Now, how long is this deployment going to be? No, I can deploy in scale, and I can do that and have a predetermined time that I'm going to work within, because it did all that parallelism through remoting for me. But now we have it locally, so that I can do like large file moves where I can migrate a bunch of VMs on a host, or I can do all of this complicated log parsing that I want to do, and I can get maximum performance. Matter of fact, I was doing some log parsing the other day, and it took about an hour to get what I needed. And just for fun, I flipped it into parallel because I was grabbing from multiple logs, and it took it like about 3 minutes. And
oh my gosh.
I've got some amazing, now it doesn't chop all the time off down to that factor. Okay. That was just, what I was doing, but we're going to show some pretty cool demos, and the factor of time that you're getting out of this is really beneficial. So we've got some amazing things in like that. And there's something very personal, of course, to me, because I wrote the RFC for it. But what one of the things I was tasked with was, what's something that, can really impact helping people with PowerShell. And so we're changing how errors are displayed. And we're changing the error messages as they get displayed in PowerShell. And we got to go to the nth degree on this. And thanks to the community that was helping us with the RFC and is still helping us with the RFC as we speak, because it's still open if people want to go out and take a look at it. Not only are we changing how the errors get displayed and what we believe is really going to help people, we have all kinds of opportunities with this. And so, I originally started this with, I want to get rid of the sea of red, right? If you're trying to run commands, every time you make a syntax error or mistake, you get a sea of red, and you got to really read close to find out what your error is. And it probably had a lot of information that you really didn't need at the moment. I mean, if I mistyped a directory path, I don't need all of this, red on my screen.
Yeah, you don't need the .NET information. You don't.
Exactly. So, there is a good time for that. It's just not all the time. So we really wanted to get it down to where it was just a single line, or at least close to a single line, where it just said, hey, you ran get child and you screwed up the path. I don't know what that path is. And we did that. And I was so happy that we did that. But I was like, oh, man, this isn't enough, because now when I run a script and I start getting errors from the script, that's not enough. Now I start to need some of this .NET information. I need more information about it. I need to know, where did this come from? What's the line number? All that. And Steve, I got to tell you, Steve Lee is really brilliant on this. He had some great ideas and some research that the guys that work on Rust were doing. And so I went through all this research on Rust and talked to Steve, and we had this great idea. You have to see it to believe it. We had a great idea that came back from the scripting errors that visually shows you what line you're on, what your code line was, and then gave you a nice terse error message pointing you right to where your code line is and what that error is. And if that's not enough information, well, now we're going to give you a new commandlet that'll take that error and fully expand it. Much more than what you used to be able to do with $error when you would like pipe it to FL star and force.
Right.
Now we're going through all of those inner exceptions and bringing that up on a screen that we think is easier to read, a lot easier to read than it used to be. And we've done things like we're adding in some color to make it easier to read on the screen. So things like this really have an impact, not just on people that are newer to PowerShell or people that occasionally use PowerShell, sure, that's going to help them. But we really wanted to be able to help everybody, the advanced users and the advanced automators that are building all this scripting and stuff. And when they get an error, we wanted to improve their experience as well. So there's a lot to check out in Preview 5 that we're doing. So it's very exciting right now. This is going to be a big change. And I just want to point out to folks, if you're taking a look at these RFCs, read them and comment on them, because the views that we have for these errors and how the errors are coming out better and some of the other capabilities that we have all came from the community and their help and them saying, hey, I've got an idea. And maybe you should consider doing it this way. We named the commandlet, and I still like the original commandlet name that's going to resolve all of these error messages and put them into a nice display for you. We just changed the name of it because the community was pointing out, hey, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work for all of these reasons, the name that you wanted. And there was the name that we wanted was Resolve Error Record. And you're right, it's not going to work out. We were stomping on the AZ commands that have Resolve AZ error, and they have an alias to that called Resolve-error. And that was going to give us contention. And the community's like, no, you're doing this wrong, and you should be. So, yep, we're going to have Preview 5 come out with a brand new name to the commandlet. It's going to be get error. It's going to be nice and simple and easy. You're going to be able to pipe to it. It'll give you the last error that you had. You can also say, hey, give me the newest errors, the newest 5 that you've had, and we can display all those for you. So I think you're really going to enjoy what we've done with that. But that's just one thing out of all of the things that have been done in PowerShell 7. And note that I'm saying PowerShell 7. I'm not saying PowerShell Core. I'm not saying Windows. I'm saying this is it, guys. This is PowerShell. This is the time to make the conversion and stop it with the Windows PowerShell and get on board, because I think you're really going to enjoy what's been done.
I know in the first episode of the show, I hope it was the first episode, maybe it was the second episode, you showed the new error records. So you actually did a demonstration of that. And you weren't sure if it was going to say error, and then the error. Has that been finalized yet? Because
you know what? And again, what a great point, Jonathan, because again, the community came back and said, you know what, error's nice, but that's not all that helpful. And they gave us some ideas. And I talked to Steve, and Steve and I sat down and went, the community's got some good ideas. And Steve's like, yeah, so here's what it's going to do. We even wrote this into the RFC. So if you want to take a look at it, if you're typing in a commandlet and you make a mistake, it's going to give you the commandlet name and the error that you made with that commandlet. If it's a parsing error, it's going to come back with, it's going to say parser exception, and it's going to give you the exception. If all else fails, it'll give you error. But in other words, it's smart. It knows where you're having the problem, and it tries to help you by telling you where your problem is. So if you have a command that you're writing and you've got a pipeline in there, so you've got get child in there, and then you've got a select and a sort and some other stuff going on, when it comes back with that single line error, it's going to tell you the commandlet that you had the problem with and show you that commandlet and the error that you got. So you never have a question, where am I in there? Where did that error show up? Where is it? It's going to give you that useful information. So we wanted to have more intelligence in it. We thought that would be better. And so far, we're really liking the results. And I use it every day, right? This is how I get my errors back from either my automation and the code that I'm working on, or in the commands that I'm trying to experiment with. And I really think that between how the single line errors come up and how your errors from a script come up, I really think this is going to change the experience for everyone and make it a little bit easier. And I want to point out, this is an iterative approach that I've been taking to this, that the entire team's been taking to it. I wrote something into the RFC that I'm not giving up on this. I'm going to keep pushing forward. This is our first iteration on improving something like errors. And we're looking at a lot of fit and finish things to improve your overall shell experience with commands and all of that. But something I want to point out that I wrote in the RFC, I'm not done with this. I still believe that, you know what, just because, we've agreed, the community's agreed that this is the best way to show errors today, that doesn't mean that that's the perfect way for you, or that it's going to be the perfect way 2 years from now. So we're talking about, and I left it open in the RFC. I wrote it in that, we're going to look at extensibility on this and see if there's a way that we can let, automators and module builders put in their own view of how they want errors done, things like that. So the community, as we work forward with the community, we'll keep coming back and iterating on these things. Like all good things, PowerShell, we're going to iterate on it, make it better every time, and eventually, it'll be perfect for everyone. But we think we've got most people squared away with this PowerShell 7 release.
So is the name of that pull request, do you know the name of that pull request? Does it implement get error commandlet as experimental feature, or?
That is the commandlet and the actual RFC. So if you guys go out to PowerShell, and I'm doing it right now because I'm not going to remember the name of it. Sure. I go through so many of these in a day. If you guys go out to PowerShell/PowerShell RFC, and then you go up to the pull request. Now, it's not going to be here much longer because at the end of the month, this will close. But right now, comments are still open. So if you go up to pull request there, you'll see something called update $error view, simplified views for error messages. And it's a long title. And it's the one that's opened by me, and it's still open. And that's the actual RFC that discusses both the views and the commandlet name and what the commandlet does. And so if you jump out there, that's where you'll be able to both see. If you want to read the entire RFC, just click on Files Changed, and out there you can see the RFC. You can read the RFC. You can see the current comments that are out there. As a matter of fact, this is a great time as a reminder to me that I need to go out tomorrow morning and answer some of the comments that have been out there for a few days. So yeah, please go out and take a look at the RFC.
I'm actually really excited about this change because I have seen people's brain grind to a halt when they were learning and they got a screen full of blood. Their brain just shut down, and they never actually went and looked at the error message to see what the actual problem was. They just threw up their hands. And I think this is going to go a long way to help people get past that in the learning process.
And I just want to say there's been a lot of research, a lot of effort, a lot of time put into this. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. This is one iteration. But I think people will find that it helps. That's what we're going for, right? The original error messages, they're great. And you'll be able to change the view back to those. So if you want to set that view back, you'll always be able to go back to that view. The original error messages were great. It's just, you ran a script and you get that sea of red and you just saw people's eyes just glaze over. So there was room for improvement. And we think we've done a good job on improving it right now. And we look forward to, being able to iterate on this and make it better. I think it's going to help a lot of people. It has helped me tremendously. And that says a lot overall. And I don't want to digress and just talk about, the fact that we're changing some of the error views. I mean, there are so many things in this release that are coming out that are, especially if you're working in the cloud. I mean, let's face it, we're doing a lot of the work that we do is affinity to the cloud. And yes, we do a lot of Azure work, but it's affinity to multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is now the thing. Hybrids are now the thing. And so it's important that the team be working on those things that keep us up with what do we need to do for Azure and make those environments work, but not just Azure, but everything that attaches to it. Hey, if you're working with Kubernetes, I'm sure that there are some things that we could be doing on the PowerShell team to improve your experience. That's what we want to talk about. We want to be working on all of these things to make sure that you're getting a first-class experience with the tool that you invested in. And, it's important to maintain that sacred promise. And I think in the original video series, and I'm going to get him to say it again, that sacred promise is that if you invested in learning PowerShell, well, PowerShell is going to take care of the needs for you, and it's important. And somebody asked me the other day, what's the most exciting thing that you learned in working at Microsoft so far? And I got to be real honest about this. The most exciting thing that I've learned is how seriously everybody takes this. I mean, there can be discussions for days on the proper verb of a commandlet.
Wow.
And that's exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
It should be that. It should be that kind of level of discussion and debate, and the community should be involved with that, because it shouldn't be made just behind closed doors. We're open source for a reason. And so those kind of debates do occur, and they should occur. And I'm grateful that they occur, because that's how serious this is being taken. That includes that sacred promise of, I should be able to go to PowerShell to fix my problem. Darn it. And that doesn't mean that I'm not running kubectl, but PowerShell is helping me with it, right? That's the idea, is that PowerShell is going to be there for us because we invested in it. And here we are, 12, 13 years later, and it's still there, and it's still bright and shiny, and it's still better than just about anything else that puts in front of me. Yeah, I've got other tools in my toolbox, but this is still the biggest tool that I always grab for first. And it needs to stay that way, and that's what we're going to keep working on. With everybody's help, we're going to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah, it's funny too, the areas of PowerShell that are important to me personally in different parts of my career. Like when I first got involved with PowerShell, I was doing Active Directory stuff, so I was all about the Active Directory commandlets. And recently, I'm doing a lot of work with an orchestration engine, and so much of the PowerShell stuff that I'm doing right now is invoke REST method. Hit an endpoint, grab a bunch of data, convert it from JSON, manipulate it, convert it back to JSON, send it somewhere else. There's so much of that is happening right now.
We're all doing a lot of that, right? And if it's not JSON, it's something else, right? It's YAML, it's MAML, it's something that we're converting to, because it is a great portable way to have something, and then we're converting back, we're manipulating it some other way, converting to it. I'm not so certain that the conversions, I'm not so certain that those will ever go away, because these are great portable formats for us to be able to use with the schemas that are built into them. It's just, I don't want to have to ever do it, right? I don't want to have to read it. I don't want to have to touch it. So the better that we can do it, making those things where they're kind of a zero touch policy on those files, the better off I think we are. And if there are ways that we can improve processes, one of the things as sitting on the PowerShell team, as we move forward, we're not just moving forward with the idea of we're just making new stuff. No, we're thinking about the old stuff that was made too. And, we go through these questions. Was that done the right way? And does it need to be modified? And so we're thinking about those files. Maybe the way that we're doing right now, we're talking about, and this is no surprise to anybody, we're talking about updatable help. That's always been something. Do we need to update PS? Is Platypus ready for an update? Are we working with the right file types? Is that the right thing? So we're always asking those questions too. And, when we're looking at the tool sets, sometimes when we see weaknesses, we want to fix them too. So when you're working with this, when you're sitting there feeling a pain point, whether it's, you personally, Jonathan, or anybody else, whatever technology you're working with, and you're feeling a bit of a pain point, go out and make an issue. Let us know about it. Because the stuff that I work with, that I have spent a lot of time with, isn't going to be the same stuff that everybody else does. You and I both work with Active Directory. I don't work with Active Directory anymore. So I'm not going to see all of those pain points necessarily anymore. That's why we want the community to help us out with those.
Yeah, the biggest pain point I have with invoke REST method is that it doesn't support TLS 1.2. So I've got to do that .NET thing before I call it every time. Yeah.
Sometimes the extensibility of PowerShell also is both a quick fix. The fact that PowerShell is so extensible, I can always go to .NET, right?
Yeah.
And solve my problem that way. That doesn't mean we always want it to stay that way. So if you're doing something like that, make sure you go out and you make an issue saying, hey, I'm doing it this way. I'm thinking there's a better way to do this. And here's the most important part. If nothing else, give us the scenario that you're facing so we can understand the scenario.
Okay.
Don't just say, this will be a great commandlet. Okay, but why? We need to know why, because I mean, it's a heavy lift, right? It's like saying, I want to take my family on vacation. You don't just show up someplace. You got to kind of think this through a little bit. Do I have money for this? Do I have a place to stay? That kind of stuff. We got to think through the same thing. So we need a reason. Why does this need to exist? Is there a purpose for it? And can we understand who this serves best? Because we don't want to develop stuff in a black box where we don't understand who the customer is, right?
What's the value proposition, right?
Exactly. And I know everybody's kind of like, oh, great, we got to go do value proposition. But honestly, I mean, I've got a busy day. I want to make sure that I'm spending time on the things that matter, and then I'm not off spending time on stuff that nobody cares about. I mean, you wouldn't appreciate it if I was wasting all my time on something that nobody cared about. So we want to make sure that it matters. So just give us a scenario, but definitely tell us about it.
So you mentioned, let's see, for each parallel we talked about the changes to the way errors are going to be displayed. Are there any other things that you want to talk about? I just want to say this, and I feel terrible because I've taken all this time. I took a lot of time. I talk about error review because I wrote the RFC and I got to work with Steve on this, but the thing is that error review is like one of the not biggest things that we're doing, right? So we're going to be bringing in secrets management finally into PowerShell. And oh my gosh, really?
Yes, I know. It's a huge conversation. We've got RFCs out there on it right now. And in Preview 5, you're going to be able to start to test some of this stuff that we're thinking about and working. And hey, not only do we have secrets management, we've got new things that are coming into the language, like the ternary operators and the chain operators. We've got all kinds of stuff. This is not just a small point release. This is a big deal, folks. And in this short amount of time, while I've spent a lot of time talking about me, the thing is you got to see what Jim Truer's doing. You got to see what Rob's doing. You got to see what Taylor's doing. You got to see what all of these people have been doing for this release. It's amazing. So I think, everybody's going to be really excited when this comes out. What I don't want anybody to do is come back to me and go, yeah, we saw you had a new release. You didn't tell us it was going to be that big of a release. Well, I have. So, but yeah, one of the things I also want to mention, if you need to learn PowerShell, I came from one of the greatest learning companies ever, Pluralsight. I love them passionately, and they were so helpful to me in this conversion of going from, and believe it or not, Pluralsight was very helpful in me moving from Pluralsight to Microsoft. They were wonderful, and they do excellent training. But there's so much training out there, and I want to highlight something for everybody. We've all been living off of, at least I certainly have been. Don Jones and Jeff Hicks have one of the most amazing books in the world, Learn Windows PowerShell in a Month of Lunches.
Oh, yeah.
And they've been keeping it up to date, and they've been working at it. Well, there's a new book to that series, folks, that's going to be coming out here, and it's in its early MEEP release right now. And this is important, the title matters. The title is Learn PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. There's no core on it. There's no Windows on it. This is it, guys. And that book is a cross-platform book. It's for anybody working with Linux, Macs, Windows, and it's being written and updated and put together by the best cross-platform team out there. We got Tyler from the team, and and everybody should know this name, Travis Plunk from the team, who's been there forever. And they're writing all the cross-platform stuff. This book is under their names, and I'm so glad it's going to be in the series. So check it out. It is a great learning resource that they're working on.
I will put that in the show notes for sure. Because it was just on sale, actually. It may be on sale right now.
I think it actually is. And this is definitely the time. If you're a Windows admin, PowerShell 7 is going to make your life dealing with Linux, because you will. It's going to make your life a lot easier. If you're on Linux and you're like, I don't need another shell. I got Bash, whatever, but I got Z shell. I'm all happy. PowerShell makes your life easier and better. And you may like what we're doing. We're doing some wonderful things to make your life at the command line better. Some interesting things that Rob's been doing that's going to be coming out just to make your life better, so that this may be one of your best shells. So give it a shot and take a look at it. And having a book like this, if you're trying to go cross-platform, is going to be very helpful. If you're going to Linux for the first time and you're not too sure what to do, this is going to be helpful. If you're on Linux and you're not sure what to do with PowerShell, this book's going to be helpful. And I'm going to shoot a couple of episodes of the show on this stuff and on this book. So why not? Let everybody get started with it today.
So is this going to be probably the between this and the series that you're going to do with Jeffrey, are those going to be the out of the gate best ways to get up to speed on what's new in PowerShell 7?
Well, I am a firm believer that you don't learn anything if you're asleep, and you don't learn anything if you don't have materials. And as much as I would, I'd love for that original MVA video series just to last forever, it can't. Right? Sure. Our technology changes. So yeah, PowerShell 7 is what we're focusing all of our new efforts around. So Jeffrey and I are going to shoot all those videos training on PowerShell 7. This is it. This is the product. This is the one tool to rule them all. And the book's going to be on that. I'm going to do some additional materials around it. We're going to be talking an awful lot about all of the new stuff in PowerShell 7 on the show. So if you don't make it to Ignite, I'm going to back you up with that on the show. So yeah, this is it. PowerShell 7's it, folks. Get on board now.
And you should also be able to see the videos from Ignite after the fact.
Yeah,
hopefully
definitely.
They'll all be recorded.
Yeah, usual. This is going to be a blast, because Joey's going to go through all of the fine details, right, of all of the changes, everything to make you ready for PowerShell 7 if you're already experienced with it. Jeffrey and I are going to go up on the Unplugged and show you some crazy stuff, man, that you can be doing, that you should be doing, things that, not necessarily that you should be doing, but that you can do, like fun with. Has anybody been playing with the new Windows terminal? I just got to know, because that is my go-to tool. And I work on it during the day. I spend most of my time working on a Windows laptop. I also got my Mac, because I have to use my Mac a lot for all the cross-platform stuff. But on Windows, that Windows terminal running PowerShell right now is my favorite place besides Cloud Shell to have that puppy running. So if you haven't looked at it, you got to check it out. It is the way to go. So yeah, there is so much crazy stuff coming up and all of that it's just, you just gotta, it's now time. I mean, I know that some people, it's been a while since there's been a whole lot of excitement around things, but you guys started your show again. There's a huge excitement. We've got a new big release of PowerShell. There's excitement. We got new training coming out, and I'm sure Jeff Hicks and everybody that's blogging is going to be writing stuff up. They got new stuff about Pluralsight, and all the video companies will be making new videos. They got new stuff. This is a big deal, so don't wait too long. You don't want that technical debt to stack up on you, because if you're working in the cloud, now is the time to make sure that you're up to date on cross-platform PowerShell. There's so much Linux workloads up in the cloud right now, both Azure, whatever cloud provider you want to use, and Windows workloads. Hey, you don't want to be left behind. So this is definitely it.
That's fantastic. You got me fired up.
And the thing is people are like, oh, he's just, faking his excitement. No, I'm this excited from the time I get up to the time I go to bed since I've been here. And believe me, I drive people in the office nuts too. So yeah.
I've met you in person. I can believe it. So that's fantastic. So what do you have going on in the future? I know that we've got the Ignite stuff's coming up. People should be checking out the show.
Big shout out. Yeah, just a big shout out. Ignite is really consuming all of us, right? Okay. So my vision is really short, except I want to say this. Guys, this is going to be released by the time that PowerShell Summit comes up in April. And the folks at DevOps Collective and PowerShell.org have organized 2 conferences, but I know that PowerShell Summit, I'm going to be there. And we're going to show you, after this has been out for general release and it's been living in the wild and the community's had its hands on it, you cannot miss this summit.
Okay.
You cannot miss this summit. This is going to be huge, and we're going to do a lot of cool stuff. We just have so many amazing things. So right now, my focus is Survive Ignite, and I'm really looking forward to talking to everybody at Ignite. You give me the best ideas when you come up and talk to me. So please talk to me so I can get some great ideas. And I'll give you credit for them. I'll write it into the RFC, whatever it takes. But yeah, after Ignite, the next probably big public thing will be Summit, I think.
Okay.
That I'll be doing. So, that's where my focus lies. And other cool things, guys, we're not going to stop. And since we're open source and we're writing RFCs, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep planning. We're going to keep doing this stuff. So if you haven't been watching the issues list and the RFCs, come on out. And if you get confused by it, I know I get confused by it. I've been living with it and I get confused by it. Ask. Let us help you. I want to help you. That's one of the things that I want to do from the team is everybody in the team wants to help the community get involved more. Well, one of the reasons I'm there is because I happen to love to do that. So talk to me. Let me help you. So if you get anything at all out of this conversation is we actually do want to help you be successful at helping us understand how to make PowerShell better. So get out there. Tell us what's not working for you and let us see what we can do.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you are the Jason Helmick on Twitter.
I am the Jason Helmick on Twitter. Please feel free to tweet at me.
And there's also what's the PowerShell Teams Twitter? Is it called PowerShell Team? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's PowerShell_team. And so you can tweet at the team. You can tweet at me. Watch for tweets coming from both of us. Watch for tweets. And I try to retweet, like when Steve Lee or Tyler or any of our guys are tweeting, I try to retweet them to make sure that people get a chance to see it.
Okay.
So watch our tweets. We'll definitely be talking. And that's how we communicate a lot of ideas. Steve Lee has been putting screenshots up of AirView before we were even really ready to start taking feedback. So he is constantly reaching for that community feedback. And I just got to tell you, I don't know if you guys, you're going to hear from team members that you may not have heard much from in a while, because this is a big release. So watch my friend Jim Truer, watch Aditya, watch Rob, Travis, watch all of us, Paul, especially with secrets management. Yeah, you got to keep an eye on what we're doing. The team is just doing amazing work. So watch us.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, those are the best ways to get at us. And I got to tell you, I am going to do a promo for you guys. I am so thrilled that you guys are back. This podcast was one of my primary sources to find out what was going on in PowerShell. And that was back in the days when they couldn't talk about stuff. Yes, we can talk about stuff, but man, it's still a tough bandwidth to get people through, and the RFCs are tough. You guys do a great job of bringing folks on, not just to talk about PowerShell, but all things related with PowerShell. And I can't give you guys enough promotion by just saying you got to listen to the podcast, because this is where you get your best information about what's going on. So listen to this podcast.
Thank you very much for that.
Well, it changed my career listening to you guys. It totally changed my career. This is how I met Don Jones, by listening to this podcast. And I worked for him for years, and I love him and respect him deeply, and would certainly work for him again in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
This community is amazing, and this is where you hear about it. And I want to give a shout out, because Glenn, I assume it was Glenn Sardi. He's absolutely correct. I need to be on Slack in the PowerShell channel. So I need to get my butt back out there. And so I encourage everybody to get on the Slack channel as well.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to be involved in the PowerShell community, there is a lot of stuff going on in the PowerShell Slack, and it's also on Discord. I mean, the messages are the same if you're logging in through Slack or you're logging in through Discord. You know, some people like one better or the other better. I personally like Slack better because I'm old, but anyway, there's a lot of different channels in there. There's some great conversations going on. There are people live streaming their PowerShell coding. There's people on the PowerShell team actually who are live streaming while they're doing coding on PowerShell.
I gotta say, people, I cannot believe this. I was talking to Tyler Lionheart. He twitches, and I'm old too, so I'm having a hard time with this whole twitchy thing. He twitches or whatever.
Twitch streams,
Twitch streams. He does this every Thursday, and he live codes stuff. Yeah, if I had this when I started PowerShell, somebody live streaming how to code, I would have advanced so much faster. So he's twitching. I'm going to do a show episode that has him on it.
Oh, good.
So that we can all twitch together.
Okay.
Live during the show. So just so that we can, you guys have to watch and hook up with Tyler on what he's twitching out there. Yeah, we've got guys live streaming them coding and solving problems. What an excellent way to learn.
Yeah, so if you go to the PowerShell Slack, there's a streaming channel, and there are bots that will tell you when people start streaming. And I mean, it's almost every day that someone is streaming. And so, I mean, I realize that's not for everybody. The timing has to work out to where you can actually, pay attention. But it is actually interactive in a lot of cases where, you're looking over somebody's shoulder while they're writing code. So it's that kind of, paired programming kind of idea, but to a higher degree from what I've seen.
And look, when I started working with PowerShell and started getting into the community and started really using PowerShell, if I had somebody like Tyler or, early on, Jonathan, Kirk Monroe, and Joel Bennett.
Yes.
And if I had these guys sitting there in front of me, showing me how to write code, I would have learned so much faster. It's a great tool. If Twitch, if watching this and working with somebody this way works for you, this is an amazing, amazing way to learn. I just think it's fantastic, and I appreciate everybody going out there and doing that. That's truly amazing. And I'll start doing it at some point. Old dogs, new tricks. But I definitely want to do it myself and be able to show things that we're working on that way too.
Yeah, there's also a PowerShell help channel that if you have a PowerShell question, there are some genius PowerShell scripters that monitor that, and the answers that I've gotten are, I mean, it's like Joel Bennett is answering,
right.
He's literally answering your questions in some cases. So I can't recommend it highly enough. And of course there's the forums at PowerShell.org. There's all kinds of places that you can get help. But if you are craving that kind of community involvement, maybe you've been to Summit for the first time last year and you're kind of missing that, get involved in the PowerShell Slack, maybe watch a few streams, watch us live, that kind of stuff is all helpful to stay connected with the community. If you have a PowerShell user group in your area that meets, go talk to people if you can, don't be afraid to do that. Some of the PowerShell user groups actually stream live, so you don't even have to be there to learn. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and the community just continues to grow. And it almost feels like to me that we're almost on like our third generation of the community.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah,
totally. Jonathan, I've been thinking this for a while, and the thing is, Jeff Hicks and I, we could see, after a conference, we could sit there at a bar or something and go, there are new PowerShell people born every year. Because, right, we got new people coming in every year. And that that keeps us going, right? That reminds us that there's still work for us to do. And that's why we would still get up in the morning and still want to teach it and still want to help people with it. Well, that's happening again.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's really important that people both see, this is a big release, folks. This is a really big release. 2, we've got a bunch of new people. So there's a bunch of new people that need help, and they don't know that there are user groups. And I love people that are running user groups. That's how I got started in the community, was by running a user group, because that's how I could learn. And that's how, you can help people. So the user groups, the new Twitch stuff, the podcast, the people are trying to help in this community. So this is one of the most powerful communities I've ever seen in my life. So if you're working with PowerShell and you face the same challenges that we all face, so get involved with this community. It's an amazing community, and I'm a testament to it. I work at Microsoft now on the PowerShell team, and I came up from this community. I am a community product on this team right now. So I'm a huge community supporter, and you need to be involved so that we can both help you and you can help somebody. And that's how I always end the show is, hey, help someone. Because to me, the most important thing you can do, and it doesn't matter with what, but if you help someone, you have a whole new understanding of what you just helped them with. And it also gives you a chance to do that whole human thing where we reach out and help somebody that's in need, whether it's with PowerShell or anything else. It's the best thing we can do for each other. So join this community.
Well, I think we can end on that. That was perfect.
Well, thank you, sir. And I got to tell you, it is so good to talk to you again.
It's good to talk to you too. I tried to talk to you a couple times at Summit, but you were always talking to somebody else.
It's always crazy at Summit, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Since I'm not involved in the operations of it anymore, I have a much more relaxed time at Summit now.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. And hopefully we can get some of the other people from the PowerShell team on to talk about some of those new areas of PowerShell 7.
I would say to you, Jonathan, the answer to that is yes, absolutely. And 2, you have your people talk to me because I don't have people, and and we will take care of that because Joe and I were talking about it today. We love your podcast, and we're so glad you brought it back. Well, I know that him and Steve were on right when you brought it back, and we want to we always want to be there for you guys. It's so important to you and to us and to the community that we all keep talking. So Thank you so much for doing this show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.